and it's going to be an exciting ride. So strap yourselves in, hold on to your butts, my friend, because the top 8 of GP Prague is upon us. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to live coverage of the quarterfinals, I should say, here at GP Prague. Come in and join us, says Neil Rigby. Look at that. Come and sit by the fire and enjoy some of the finest modern action you're likely to see this side of the West, my friends. Andre Strasky and Kenneth Platink here. Band Spirits versus Infect. And Andre Strasky, well, he's a man poised to move on from professional Magic. He said this a couple of times publicly, but there was the rider, Simon. He did say that if he won GP Prague, he might be back for another tilt of the crown. So we'll see if Strasky's little prophecy ends up coming true here as he opens things up with a Mausoleum Wanderer. How do you feel about this matchup in the blind?
I think that it's difficult to say. It's not quite even, but in fact doesn't have an easy matchup against the Spirits, because there will be so many blockers on Strasky's side of the battlefield. That in return means that an unanswered blighted agent could be hugely problematic for Andre.
Mausoleum Wanderer is a nice one against some of those pump spells, I suppose, although it's not going to have the huge impact that it may have in other matchups. Still, a nice little evasive 1/1 that will grow larger over the course of the game. Of course, there's not only Supreme Phantom, but also Drogskull Captain to make all of these spirits start to add up to something.
We have to mention also that Strasky is the first player after Swiss, which puts him at quite the advantage in this match, but also should he win in the semis and the final.
Check this out. Noble Hierarch getting busy here with propelling this Mausoleum Wanderer up to a 3/3 now, thanks to those Exalted triggers.
And accelerating Collected Company. That's a great start by Strasky.
Yes, indeed. Platink also has a Noble Hierarch of his own here, following that up with an Inkmoth Nexus. And an attack with the Hierarch. This is not even I was going to say the plan B of Infect, but it's more like the plan F.
Yeah, and I don't quite understand even attacking there. It's so unlikely to matter.
Yes, the 1 point of life is not likely to... Well, I mean, it happens sometimes. It happens sometimes. Both players get run out of resources there, and ultimately, a Noble Hierarch gets embiggened by a Vines of Vastwood or a late stage Become Immense or something and can steal the game. But we'll see here. Not the perfect start for Platinx, as of course he wants an early Infect creature, whether it's on turn 1 or turn 2. He wants, a Glistener Elf or a Blighted Agent. Doesn't have anything like that so far.
A pretty bad draw. Maybe also a mulligan. I'm trying to count the cards here. Kind of a difficult task.
What are your thoughts on Platinx's approach to sideboarding there with the Quad Geist of St. Traff post board?
I don't know if that's what Infect needs.
It's kind of cute.
Because honestly, hexproof is not something that I would think is so important for Infect in the current metagame.
Well, the thing is, often, as we see a Collected Company now from Andre Strasky with a Selfless Spirit... Oh, no, just the Oneski. The Oneski-Whiffski there from Strasky. The problem here is that often the Infect deck now plays Invisible Stalker in the board. And Geist of St. Traff for a single other mana hits for 6 rather than for 1. And often will survive combat thanks to all those pump spells. And, I mean, it does involve a cost. You can see Platinx there playing a Windswept Heath so he can fetch out his Temple Gardens and what have you. But I don't know, man. This card hits pretty hard.
It does. It's just the real question is whether you want to be even hitting for regular damage, and what in which matchups do you want this? What happens if your opponents know about it? All these questions.
Inkmoth Nexus comes across for 2. Going to be a block from the Selfless Spirit here. We'll see if Platinx wants to respond to that with a pump spell. Looks like he does. Might be a Blossoming Defense here. Strasky does have 1 mana available. Might of Old Crows is going to be the play. So straight 1-for-1 trade there. And I don't think Strasky's going to be too unhappy with that.
No, that's actually a pretty good exchange for Strasky, who has more gas in the tank. For example, that second collected company.
Yes, let's hope for his sake that it hits something a little bit more exciting than last time there. That single Selfless Spirit was a little bit of a dud. So let's see what Strasky can put together this time around. Here is Supreme Phantom. That's a nice one. Pumps up the Mausoleum Wanderer to attack now for 5 in the air. That is a respectable clock here, Simon.
It's 4, right?
Well, it gets a trigger from the Supreme Phantom plus the boosting effect, and then the 2+1/+1 Exalted triggers there.
Just this turn, yeah.
So a big beefy attack now with that Mausoleum Wanderer. And all of a sudden, Plating's under a fair bit of pressure.
And I have to say, really an amazing draw on Strasky's side. Such a great curve out. Noble Hierarch showing her power. And once again, I expect the Inkmoth Nexus to just get blocked. Don't take any risks when you're that far ahead. And Mausoleum Wanderer's activated ability, might actually become relevant as well.
Yes, indeed, with all those pump spells flying around. That was something that we highlighted earlier on as a potential line for Strasky. Plating's down to 5 already. He really has had the screws turned on him here. As the Nexus barrels in for another 2 points of poison damage. We'll see what Strasky wants to do about it here. He's got a block available with the Supreme Phantom. Looks like Strasky is going to line up a block after all before Platings has a chance to start to fire off some pump spells. See what Platings wants to do here. Of course, these creatures right now bouncing off each other, although the Supreme Phantom will become a -1/1 creature. Another Might of Old Crozer here. Big old mousy boy. Collected Company in response now for Strasky. Going to take one off his Horizon Canopy. Let's have a look. 6 of the best here for Strasky from the Headmaster. Let's see what he can find.
And Strasky's doing that. So, first of all, he's not risking anything. He's never going to be dead here. Also, it gives him the chance to maybe even consider sacrificing the Mausoleum Wanderer. Just so that he has full information about what's going on.
So right now the Mausoleum Wanderer just a 1/1. But if there are any other spirits that come into play, and I can already see 2, 3. Oh, wow, this is huge. This is a much, much better Collected Company here. Both Supreme Phantom and Drogskull Captain, meaning that Inkmoth Nexus is in a world of hurt here, Simon. Going to boost up the Supreme Phantom to a 3/5 should he choose both of those creatures. And also that Mausoleum Wanderer can trade off for the Might of Old Crozer to ensure the Inkmoth Nexus bites the dust. What's your line here? Do you sacrifice the Mausoleum Wanderer?
No, I don't think you do that. I think you're happy having the Wanderer as a backup for whatever Platings is planning to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Because this exchange is favoring you. Of course, you would like that Inkmoth to die, but honestly, I don't see a problem with it because you're just attacking for lethal.
So the Supreme Phantom will pick up 4 -1/-1 counters, meaning it will still survive because of the other lords on the table there. And yep, the Supreme Phantom becomes a -3/1. Got some results from the back tables, however. On table C, can tell you now that Laurie Pisper on Hardened Scales Affinity has beaten Joachim Harum on Banned Spirits in the first game. These guys heading to game number 2, and Hardened Scales up a game there, Simon. But it looks like Strasky going to avenge the loss of his Spirit Brethren from Joachim Harum. Picks up a rather comfortable game 1 win against Infect. Platings had a tricky time of it. Didn't have an early creature to get on the board in turns 1 or 2, and Strasky never really stumbled. I mean, that Collected Company was kind of a stinker the first one.
The first one, yeah.
The second one more than made up for it.
Second one was great. And to be honest, the Selfless Spirit basically did what it had to do there, just block the Inkmoth Nexus for 1 turn.
Got another result as well. Bad news for the fans of Javier Dominguez and Jeskai Control around the world. KCI combo gets up in game number 1 against Jeskai Control there. So Claude Schmidt, KCI and the Sunshine Band getting it done against Javier Dominguez in game number 1. So all of these tables shuffling and sideboarding right now means we get to have a look at the sideboards being played by these decks. You might actually, the keen-eyed amongst you, my friends around the world at home, we'll notice that deck lists are being handed out, Simon, and this is a unique factor that only comes in during the top 8.
Yeah, we don't want to give players an advantage that have friends telling them what their opponents are playing, or that have been maybe catching a few minutes of the stream. So you do have full information about the deck lists of your opponent.
And luckily for you as well, around the world, my friends, we can also share the sideboards of these two players. We did get a look at the graphics earlier on, and we do have the sideboards here in front of us as well to share with you. We mentioned already that Platings has those 4 copies of Geist of St. Traff. In addition to that, 4 Nature's Claim, a Spellskite, double Grafdigger's Cage, Wild Defiance, Spell Pierce, Viridian Corruptor, and Dismember. Is this the matchup for the Geist of St. Traff, Simon?
No, I don't think so. You, when you're playing against spirits, you don't want to battle them with your own spirit. It's you don't care about a 2/2 hexproof attacker against spirits. You've seen the problem here was that your it wasn't that your creatures were being dealt with, but there were too many blockers for your creatures. So you want to be on the poison plan 100%.
So there may be other cards that he's potentially interested in. You know, there are other cards that may prove to have a little bit of a role in the matchup there. I mean, again, nothing's really jumping out at me from this page. The 4 copies of Nature's Claim, obviously in there for, you know, enchantment and artifact-based decks, but not going to have a lot of targets against banned spirits.
No, if we're being completely honest, the Infect deck of Kenneth Platings is not built to sideboard against spirits. You can bring in a Spell Pierce to counter Collected Company, but that's about it.
We've got Andre. We just had a look at Andre Strasky's deck list there. You can see Platinks. That's his sideboard laid out in front of you there at the bottom of the screen. But we'll go back and have a chat about Andre Strasky's list now. It flashed up on the screen just before, and we can have a look at how it works here with his sideboard: double Dampening Sphere, another Geist of St. Traff, triple Rest in Peace, triple Stony Silence, double Thalia, Unified Will, and Worship. So very heavy component of hateful white cards post-board.
Mm-hmm. This is actually something that I wanted to touch upon, because Hardened Scales in the other bracket, in this other quarterfinal going up against Banned Spirits, Lowry Pispa will now be fighting against all these Stony Silences and most likely also Rest in Peace. For the Infect matchup, that's completely irrelevant.
Yeah, there aren't really too many... not really too many cards here either. Are we just going to be running back game 1?
I would think about the Thalias. I kind of like them against Infect.
Yes, I see that.
Because it's more taxing on them than on you. Worship is unplayable.
Yep, doesn't do a single thing
against Poison Counter. So both of these players will not be sideboarding too much.
I mean, Rest in Peace is just... I mean, it shuts off Become Immense, but that's not enough.
That's not worth it.
No, certainly not. So we will see almost certainly then these two decks positioned pretty closely to how they were in game number 1. Often this is a phenomenon we see with combo decks, right? They can't afford to change the way that their deck is composed too heavily, Simon, lest they sort of dilute their main combo win. But here are 2 creature decks that post-board aren't going to look too different.
Yep, and you're mentioning combo decks. This Infect deck is effectively a combo deck. So if you're playing against a deck like Banned Spirit that isn't shut down by anything in particular, you just have to hope that your main game plan is going to come out ahead.
Strasky consults the opener. Looks like a 1-lander to me.
With an Ether Vial, though.
Okay.
And that looks like a Thalia to me as well.
All right. Well, the turn 1 Ether Vial into turn 2 Thalia is a nice, strong play that we see across the modern format in other decks like Human.
And it's a 2-lander, too. I think this hand is perfectly fine.
Easy game. Maybe it's Platings who's in the tank here, having a think about it. His hand, man, look at the way he's holding it. Very difficult to see exactly what he's working with. Can see a couple of lands. If that's a Glistener Elf hanging out in the back, it's very difficult to chuck a hand like that back. So he's going to keep it, and we're off to the races for game number 2 here. There is the Glistener Elf. Looks to me like that's been signed by Tom Ross, the boss. And Simon, Tom Ross has since departed Tournament Magic, competitive Magic, to go and work in Wizards R&D. And very excitingly for fans of Infect, he's been working at R&D now for about 18 months, which, not coincidentally, is how long it takes for newly designed cards to actually be released in new sets. So
You're just waiting for the poison counters.
I'm pretty sure that if Tom Ross has anything to say about it, Infect is going to be back at the top of the tables as soon as he can make it happen. You know, he's in the R&D meeting. He's been like, oh, maybe we should put this pump spell on. What do you think about this creature protection spell? I don't know. I kind of really like this blue-green fixing that we've got here going on here. So we will see. We will see what the future holds, but I wouldn't be surprised. Platings now.
Yeah, much better start by the Infect player.
Yeah, Blighted Agent as well, diversifying his threats here.
Blighted Agent is the scariest card for Strasky.
Because Strasky is able to throw blockers in front of Infect creatures, but Blighted Agent isn't going to let him do that.
No, and that means he's not going to be able to trade off spirits for pump spells and then get ahead with Collected Company. No, he's just potentially dead against a Blighted Agent within 1 or 2 turns.
Strasky thinking about his next move here. Thalia would slow down the onslaught of pump spells that could be thrown out. I like this as well. You play your opponent has already played 2 creatures, so now you put down to the Thorn of Amethyst to punish their follow-up non-creature spells.
It's also not terrible at threatening to block Glistener Elf. At this stage, you're almost forced to, because if there are 3 Infect creatures coming in next turn, not blocking, I don't think, is an option.
Well, Strasky thinking long and hard about this decision. I'm not sure what else he can do here.
He has a Rattle Chains.
Okay.
Not a great play, but it's the alternative. There's also this thing about Thalia taxing his own Collected Company. So he might, well, or he should, I assume, he is under Strasky after all, he should not only have made the decision what to play, but also whether to block if Kenneth attacks with the Glistener Elf. Because that's a crucial part of the decision.
So the Guardian of Thraben enters the battlefield. Strasky's Aethervial next turn is going to start to get busy, you would think.
Yeah, all a little bit slow, considering that Andre is on the draw here.
Playtinks. Rancor in hand for him. I saw a Groundswell as well. And a Grafdigger's Cage as well. Sure. Is that correct?
That is an anti-Collected Company card.
It's very narrow. I guess, I mean, Collected Company is just that good, huh?
Yeah, that's basically the reason. You have a card you can bring in that only shuts off 4 cards from the Bun Spirits deck, but it's probably the 4 best cards in the deck.
We did see the previous configuration, as we see Rancor come down on the Blighted Agent. We saw the previous configuration of white-blue spirits, Simon, quickly eclipsed by its Bant cousin. We wrote about this last week for Channel Fireball, and ultimately I think the addition of both Noble Hierarch and Collected Company more than enough to justify the green splash. Also, Horizon Canopy, a fantastic land to add to a creature-heavy deck like this.
Absolutely. Oh, you even get the Vial activation on 1 out of this turn. That's great.
Very nice.
Great for Strasky.
Very nice. Andre Strasky is going to get busy with a Thalia as well. Send her in. Why not?
That Thalia already prevented quite a few poison counters.
Holding off the Glistener Elf.
Holding off the Glistener Elf, but also the mana that Plating had to invest into Rancor, the extra mana, meant that Inkmoth Nexus couldn't attack and Platings couldn't cast another pump spell, couldn't deploy Grafdigger's Cage, a bunch of positive things.
No 3rd land for Strasky, but he will still be able to play to the board. He's got a Rattle Change that he can cast at instant speed. He's got, is that double Collected Company?
He has, I think, double Drogskull, double Company, and a Rattle Chain.
So let's see if Platinx wants to get this Grafdigger's Cage on the battlefield. It certainly would be a very, very good play, a very strong play from him, although he doesn't know how good it would be right now. 2 mana. So we're going to see, looks like we're going to see Grafdigger's Cage this time, and it's going to be brutal here for Strasky.
Yeah, I don't know. The Cage is not that urgent, because Strasky is on 3 mana with a Thalia in play. So
he's a long way away from casting.
I wouldn't be really concerned about the Collected Company here. Kenneth, I think, has to focus on winning the game with his Blighted Agent. And 2 mana is a lot when you are playing under Thalia.
Platings can push through a fair bit more poison damage here with his Blighted Agent. And those Inkmoth Nexus, you can attack with at least one of them here. Blighted Agent comes across for 3. And looks like we're just going to fire up some pump spells here. Here's a Groundswell, going for the kill.
Yep, I like it.
Just putting Andre Strasky to the question, do you have it? And the answer from Strasky is no, I do not. So Plating's just kind of putting it all on the line there. I mean, he didn't have too much to lose if it went awry. He'd get the Rancor back. He still had the Glistener Elf. He had Grafdigger's Cage to then contest the Collector Company. He was in a good spot, but that was nonetheless quite a risk.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, he's playing in fact, and he knows that Bunspirits doesn't have a lot of ways to interact with what he's doing. There was no path in the early stages of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think going for it there, also with 2 mana up, a bunch of other infect creatures on the battlefield, is absolutely correct.
We can have a look at these 2 deck lists once again here, and see exactly what both these players are working with. As you can see, they are consulting the opposing deck lists, and I think generally speaking, as we mentioned, Simon, we're not going to see sideboard cards have a huge impact. We saw Grafdigger's Cage come in. I want to ask you a question here. Grafdigger's Cage coming in to shut off the Collected Company is something that, in your mind, you consider justifiable because the Collected Company is just that good.
Absolutely. Maybe now for Game 3 you can debate being on the draw. It's not the right kind of card you want to have in your opening hand because it's a gamble for a longer game. You're not maximizing your chances of just having a crazy start and winning on the spot.
I want to compare that situation, bringing in a cage to deal with the company. You advocated not bringing in Rest in Peace to deal with the Become Immense. Now, it's the same story here, but a very different result.
Mm-hmm. And that's because Become Immense is not the best card in fact. It's not the scariest card for the Bunspirits deck list either. I said I think it's pretty obvious that Blighted Agent is the one card that, if it stays on the battlefield, is giving Kenneth the maximum win percentage. Just out of all the cards, out of all the permanents he has in this matchup.
And Strasky just doesn't have good answers to it outside of Path to Exile. There's no real ways for him to perpetrate chicanery and remove it out of, from contention here.
Yep.
Path to Exile essentially the best bet here for the Czech hero. I don't think, if Strasky didn't change his deck at all, I think that's justified. Although the Thalia, as we saw, a nice upgrade.
It's an upgrade, but it also has its cost. Making your own spells cost more is certainly a real price. I could totally see now that Strasky's on the play to just say, I'm not going to bother with Thalias. I'm just going to hope that my spirit draw is as good as possible and that I have at least one Path to Exile to interact with my opponent.
Just the good old David Williams Turbo Fog approach to sideboarding in Standard. You're good.
Don't need it.
Don't need it. Don't want it.
No.
You're good. Let's have a look at what Playtinks is working with here. Pretty standard infect list. Well, no, sorry, excuse me. It's modern infect list, of course. Spell Scout in the main is a nice spicy one. 1 copy of Dismember and a Spell Pierce as interactive options. But Simon, you mentioned that this deck is at its best in a format where people are goldfishing, fiddly-farting around with their own cards, not really worrying about what the opponent is doing. This is one of the fastest decks that can beat uninteractive opponents very swiftly and very consistently.
Yes, you want to be playing against KCI.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good example because it's not going to be blocking all that much. It's a bit different already when you're looking at, for example, Hollow One. If they don't have the quick creatures, it's great. If they have a 4/4 on the battlefield before you even start your turn, it's a different story. So a lot about how interactive the matchup is. By the way, Mark Tobias played Infect this weekend, and he loves to play against control.
Oh, really?
So these games are drawn out affairs, and it's really tricky to navigate. But if the Infect player knows what they are doing, they usually have the tools to outplay the control player because everything they do is so much cheaper.
Well, both of these players consulting their openers. Looks like Playtinks has taken a mulligan, as has young Andre Strasky is here as well. Both players in the midst of a Scry 1.
Yeah, and it looks like Strasky has a very strong hand. Has to decide whether to lead off with Noble Hierarch or Ether Vial. And if that's a Geist of Saint Traft and a Path to Exile that I see there, then he has all the tools to just win the game and the match, even ignoring draw steps.
It's going to be huge here if Strasky can enact this plan without any disruption from Playtinks. And Playtinks is playing a list that is not high on disruption. Strasky looks to be wanting to send this card below decks. He finally makes up his mind about it. Still waiting for Playtinks, however, who is also going to go beneath the library. And we are off to the races. Noble Hierarch looking to power out a Geist of Saint Traft on turn number 2. Crack in for 6 on turn 3 and get this one to bed. Put Playtinks in the ground, Simon.
And here you can see how much better that Geist of Saint Traft is than, for example, Thalia. You are very much interested in putting a quick clock on your opponent, and Geist of Saint Traft attacks for 7 with the help of a Noble Hierarch.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Wow, yes, it can get even busier than I thought. Here is the Geist of Saint Traft, old Geist Arena. One of my favourite cards in the format. Love to play it in Jeskai as well, although the Jeskai tempo list has kind of fallen off the face of the earth in recent months. Got an update from the back table as well. Humans taking out game number 1, Simon. And my prediction for game number 2, humans also, I would say. We will see in the humans mirror between Bernardo Santos and Toe Mary. It's Toe Mary who wins game number 1, the Frenchman here, so we'll see if he can double down and take it out in straight sets. More updates as they come to hand, ladies and gentlemen. Here is Glistener Elf now for Playtinks. Going to have to do something about this Geist of Saint Traft, however, because it's going to hit hard and it's going to hit often.
Yeah, did you see if that was a Glistener Elf just drawn? Because otherwise I would have expected the Glistener Elf to come down on turn 1.
Geist of Saint Traft brings along little friend in the air. I say little. How about attack for oh, and players like, you sure you don't want to use this much better M19 token? And Stracy's like, buddy, this one, Avacyn Restored, best token that there is. Don't even worry about it. Gets across for 7 now. What's Playtinks up to? Strasky has the path in hand. It's looking good for the check here.
Looking very good, yes. It will still take quite a bit of time to get there.
So Playtinks down to 12. He's on a 2-turn clock. And the Angel gets exiled, of course, at the end of combat. What a card, Simon. What a card.
I played with Geist of Saint Traft in Standard quite a bit.
Yep.
Delver of Secrets, Geist of Saint Traft, Restoration Angel.
Back in the day when Geist of Saint Traft was the best removal spell for opposing Geist of Saint Traft.
Different times.
Different times, different rules, different cards. But now, seeing some play in Modern, which is fantastic. Back to Playtinks now. He can start to get busy with this Glistener Elf, but Andre Strasky may be able to leverage his path to exile. Simon, however, a little tip, I suppose, that it's important for newer players who aren't perhaps used to playing against Infect all the time. Often it's better to use your instant speed removal during your turn.
Yes, or at the end of their turn.
After they've already done
so after they've dealt damage, so that you're not running ahead straight into those Vines of Vastwoods and Blossoming Defenses. Actually, that's true in Limited as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't cast your damage-based removal spell, and then they have a Giant Growth or something like that, you're taking a lot more damage, and you've basically given the opponent an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have had.
You've got to kind of weigh up how likely it is for your opponent to have that, and also how likely they are to, play around your removal.
Well, the real question is there anything that they would likely do which makes you benefit from waiting?
Yeah.
Because often there is just no benefit.
This is like it's like the Galaxy Brain thing. It's casting instants in your own turn is the little potato-sized brain, and then by the end of it, you come full circle as well, and the big Galaxy Brain is also casting instants during your turn as well. So, come full circle there. Here's another Noble Hierarch now for Playtinks. That's going to mean the Glistener Elf can rumble for 3 here.
Yeah, Playtinks actually declined to use Pendelhaven before combat. Maybe we'll see the reason for that just now. If his hand is just his hand might just be stacked with pump spells and Vines of Vastwood backup, so that he doesn't even need the Pendelhaven. That would be brutal. But Stratsky has great interactive options as well, with the Spell Queller hidden in his hand.
As well as that path to exile. So it's unlikely that Playtinks will be able to connect with this Glistener Elf because Stratsky can curve his path into a Spell Queller, which would mean that, well, yeah, I just don't see the Glistener Elf connecting.
Well, it's connecting right now, I think. It's actually just a 7-power Glistener Elf.
Just.
And like I was saying, it's in Stratsky's interest not to path a 7/7 Glistener Elf. Yeah, because then you are giving your opponent the chance to win with double Vines of Vastwood or something crazy like that.
Sure, I see. Okay, so I was going to say if Stratsky puts Playtinks on a single protection spell, then he's fine.
Small correction. Might of Old Crozza was not cast in Kenneth's main phase, but in combat.
Yeah.
So yeah, then honestly, I'm a bit confused. I think usually you want to be using your Pendelhaven, you want to cast your Might of Old Crozza in your main phase, but I'm sure Kenneth had his reasons, mana availability being one of them. And now I think he is getting blown out by Andre here.
Yep, so the Spell Queller is going to eat up that the Vines of Vastwood, the Vast of Vinewood there, and we will see the Path to Exile remove the Glistener Elf from the equation. That could have gone better for Playtinks. I feel like it also could have gone better for Stratsky.
Why? Because of the 5 infect damage, or?
I just don't think playing around double Vines was the... I don't know. Look, it doesn't matter. We can move on from it there.
The thing is, Playtinks doesn't have a single infect creature on the battlefield, and your clock is super fast now.
That's true, but the moment that Playtinks plays an Inkmoth Nexus, which he already has now, you can see... Oh, no, that's a Pendelhaven. Geist of St. Traff coming across again, and the clock has been quickened, I have to say, by the Spell Queller as well. Geist of St. Traff going to eat up a Noble Hierarch.
Ooh.
No, it's not. Excuse me. Mutagenic Growth to take out the Geist.
And that's actually huge. If that works, Kenneth has just bought himself a ton of time.
Exactly. Because that Angel's still going to connect. Oh, it's another Spell Queller from Andre Stratsky.
Brutal.
And the Mutagenic Growth hides away under a Spell Queller. Playtinks can't believe his bad luck here.
No, that's a game-winning Spell Queller right there.
That is huge, because now we have Playtinks down to 5. He's facing down a horde of lethal attackers. That Angel isn't on the battlefield anymore, of course. And he could be just one turn away from bowing out of this top 8. I mean, hats off to him for making it this far, but there's no shame in going down to someone like Andre Stratsky. Can Playtinks find a way to get past this enormous obstacle here as the Angel is finally exiled? Noble Hierarch, the only non-creature permanent in play here for Playtinks. And it's going to get busy. Send a message. Go down swinging, Playtinks, old son. Get it done, my friend. I love to see it. A Might of Old Crozza and a handshake from Playtinks as he bows out most graciously, going down swinging. And a small smile on the face of Andre Stratsky, who is getting closer and closer, dangerously close, Simon, to winning this GP.
Yep. I don't think he would mind.
No, I think the old I'm quitting Magic into winning a GP is, it's a roller coaster ride to be sure, but at the end of it, you're definitely going to be smiling. We're going to move over to Table C now. I can update that on Table B, we actually do have a result with Claude Schmidt beating Javier Dominguez in straight sets, so the Spaniard bowing out there as well. But it gives us a chance, Simon, to move over now to our third table. Laurie Pisper and Joachim Haram. It's back to more banned spirits now, but this one, wow, looks like a bit of a deadlock with Hardened Steel gumming up both the air and the ground, and Haram can't break through.
Yeah. Always great to come to board states like that, but I would think with the animation module, the hardened scales, and everything else that's going on, also the Arcbound Ravager hiding there at the top, that the Bun Spirits deck is under a lot of pressure here.
13 or 12 Arcbound Ravager hanging out there. Here's a Rattle Chains now. Spooky, scary spirits here.
And I assume that's 17 Thopter tokens. And each spirit is blocking one of them. Lowry is not moving in, it seems. Just happy to deal 9 points here. Another Hangerback Walker on defense, as backup.
Yeah, with 6 counters on it as well. Big boy. Going to go up to 8 counters now, thanks to that hardened scales. The old 45-degree tap. Someone's being playing Magic Arena. And the module as well, going to make another Thopter. Servo, excuse me.
Now, quite relevant that those are not flying.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, I think Haram doesn't have anything in his deck to get through here.
No, this is where you need something like a Cryptic Command.
Yep.
Tap down the team and get in for lethal. And ultimately, it will be Pispa who, again, will rely on this deck's capacity to grind, Simon. We talked about this previously. This deck grinds much better than its more orthodox, traditional affinity cousin.
Yeah, look at that. It's
carnage.
It's just absurdly powerful what's going on here. Now we can see the Hangerback Walker being sacrificed. No.
He does have a way to sacrifice the Hangerback Walker at instant speed, of course, thanks to the Arcbound Ravager. And just think, the card that Laurie Pispa here is missing to really take things to an absurd level is Steel Overseer.
I don't think he's really missing much, to be honest.
No, that's true. But what I'm saying is, like,
yeah. Steel
Overseer is the card that would take this from ridiculous to truly obscene.
To completely busted, yes.
Yes.
And I still think that Laurie had to sacrifice the Hangerback Walker there, because why do you not want, 10 more flyers?
Mm. Dismember on the Drogskull Captain as another one comes down to give them all hexproof. And here is Selfless Spirit as well.
Does Haram have a way to survive this? 9, 15?
Doesn't look like he does. And not enough blockers there for Joachim Haram. And Laurie Pispa improves to the semi-finals of GP Prague, my friends. And that means that we can round out 3 of the 4 semi-finalists that you're going to be seeing on your screen very, very shortly. Firstly, Andrei Strasky with Banned Spirits overcoming Kenneth Platinks on Infect. Congratulations, Andre. Unfortunately, his compatriot here, Joachim Haram on Banned Spirits, going down to Hardened Scales Affinity. Very exciting to see these new decks getting it done in this modern format. Javier Dominguez losing out to KCI from Claude Schmidt there. And it is all humans all day on our 4th table there, Bernardo Santos and To Mary.
Interesting that Dominguez fell so quickly to the Ironworks combo. I thought, especially after sideboarding, that he has a really good game against the deck. But like I mentioned before, it is not the bracket he was dreaming of.
Yeah, I think that depending on the way that the pairing sort of fell, sort of came out, it would have been a very different state of affairs there. But as it is, we are guaranteed humans, at least in our semi-finals. So the decks for the semi-finals are determined, right? We've got Banned Spirits playing against Hardened Scales, and then we've got Ironworks Combo playing against humans. And here are the humans players tied up at 1 and 1. And it's going to be one of these jolly fellows that makes it their way through to the semi-finals, both of them playing humans, as we said. We've already taken you through the deck lists for both of these players previously, and we've got them in front of us here as well, Simon. So maybe we can talk about some of the differences between these two lists. I mean, broadly speaking, these lists are kind of the same, but as we cast our eyes over the two humans lists, is there anything that sort of jumps out at you as being a little bit unusual in either of these lists?
So I know Mary has
a little lamb?
Three Phantasmal Images.
Oh, 3 Phantasmal Images.
And I think Santos is playing
the full 4.
Full 4, yeah. I like this card. I think it gives the deck so much more diversity. You always have the best threat or the best lock piece or the biggest creature on the battlefield with Phantasmal Image. Just a great constructed card. Having a clone that only costs 2 mana, I think it's no surprise that this shows up in the humans list, even though it's not a human.
Another subtle difference there is we've got 3 Phantasmal Image, 4 Reflector Mage in one list, and then in the other it's the 4 Phantasmal Image, 3 Reflector Mage. And then the other key difference there, 4 Meddling Mage, 3 Militia Bugler for Bernardo Santos, whereas it's 3 Bugler and 4 Meddling Mage for Tomeri. So we're talking about very slight differences.
Very slight differences, and also not hugely relevant sideboard cards. Sure, you can bring in an Is It Staticaster. You can try to Reclamation Sage an Ether Vial, but honestly, it's mostly going to be the cards that you see in Game 1.
So, Ether Vial on both sides now. We've got the OG art versus the new updated one there. On both sides of the table. And Tomeri, the fact that he's on the play is going to make a difference here. Second Ether Vial is going to cost him another point of life here. Does he have another land?
Doesn't look like it. You would usually play that land to...
any other land.
Any land.
Yeah. Well, no shortage of lands here for Santos as he plays an Ancient Ziggurat and an Auriok Champion. This was a card that we've seen in the past. It is essentially a Soul Warden.
And both of these players have Auriok Champion in their sideboard.
Two of.
I believe.
Yes, both of them playing two.
And it's used in these kind of matchups against other bunt decks to win the race.
Yeah.
So you're playing it against humans and against bunt spirits, even though the protection from black and from red is completely irrelevant.
That's true. I mean, it isn't too bad against burn as well. Any source of incidental life gain is going to be useful.
No, I mean, against burn, it's obviously the card you want, but it's not immediately obvious why you would want to bring it in this kind of matchup.
Well, we're going to see exactly why now. As another Auriok Champion, this time for Tomeri. So pretty close starts for both of these players. Looks like Santos may have a Champion of the Parish or a Noble Hierarch, or is just on the big bluffski.
Mary is on only old art. Santos so far on
all new art.
All new art.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really good. We'll see if Santos is playing with the new Horizon Canopy as well to really complete the trifecta. Finds an unclaimed territory off the top there. Very important piece of the puzzle when it was first printed in Ixalan. That's what really, that and Kitesail Freebooter really pushed this deck to the fore of humans, of the modern format. Here's Mantis Rider now. Going to clip in for 3. Mary without an answer for that, of course. Going to gain a life. But then take 4. Interesting that he's exposing his champion here.
It's not really exposing the champion, it's offering the trade. So, oh wow.
Oh, okay. Does have something to say about the Mantis Rider after all. Wasn't expecting that.
Basically saying, look, this is a symmetrical effect. If we both have Auriok champions, I'm pushing the advantage here, and I don't want you to have Auriok champion. There's also, with the Vial on 2, always the threat
of Thalia's Lieutenant. Well pointed out, Simon. Yes, indeed, as that would have been a blowout there for Mary to snap off that 1-1 block.
But Mary's playing humans himself. He's not going to walk into a trap that he has set himself many times.
Ether Vials tick up here for Mary, who again is falling behind on lands, but I mean, he's got all the Vials he needs to continue to develop his board very nicely here. Lieutenant, a little bit lost in the woods by the look of things in that art, but I tell you what, she gets the job done in this Go Wide Humans list. Ether Vial, main phase by the look of things, and we're going to see now a Mantis Rider. That's a good reason to play at main phase, of course. Both players going to gain a life. Mary a little bit behind the 8 ball when it comes to the life totals, but he's looking to change that now with an attack with the Vigilant 3-3.
Yep. And I think Mantis Rider is one of the key cards in this matchup as a hasty flyer, whereas all the ground creatures can somehow trade off or bounce off each other. Mantis Rider just keeps getting in there. Note that it can't block Auriok Champion, though.
Oh, yes, of course, as the champion has protection from red. Mary is holding at least 1 copy of Militia Bugler. He may even be holding 2.
Oh, that could be really good with the 2 Ether Vials he has.
Just play the Bugler, find a 2-drop, put that into play, rinse and repeat for the next turn. Mary's right in this. Look at this bloke, playing the song of his people, summoning allies to his side. Noble Hierarch again, bunch of triggers here as we see the Thalia's Lieutenant and the Auriok Champion on both sides, gaining a bit of life. It's going to be a long one here, Si. Let's see what else Santos has to play here. So you can see Seachrome Coast in hand and still that unclaimed territory. He's getting flooded. Yep. One of the biggest dangers when playing the human list.
It's much better to only have 1 land in play, which is actually true because you will have more spells to work with.
It's better to draw 1 land than 5.
It's definitely better to draw 1 land and a Noble Hierarch and 2 Ether Vials than 5 lands, a Noble Hierarch and an Ether Vial.
Reflector Mage. See what he wants to bounce back here.
pretty low impact card when both players have vials, actually.
Because the creature can still enter the battlefield via the vial, yeah.
Almost immediately, too. So here the scariest card is Mantis Rider, but it's only an Aether Vial activation away from entering the battlefield again.
It does hold Tomeri off from that value train Militia Bugler, but, I mean, that's fine, right? He can tick up his other Aether Vial if he wants. He can start casting creatures au natural with his Noble Hierarch.
Oh, it's perfectly fine. I don't think either player made a mistake there. Is Santos respecting... Yeah, it looks like Santos is respecting Thalia's Lieutenant here a lot by not attacking with the Auric Champion. Unless I missed something. I thought that the Auric Champion should attack for sure. Maybe because of the Exalted trigger, Santos is happy to
just get him for 4.
To just not deal that extra point of damage.
Aether Vial up to 3. Militia Bugler going to kick things off here for Tomeri. We know that he's got a Mantis Rider in hand. 4 off the top. Let's see what we like the look of here.
With Mantis Rider in hand, it's also really easy to just go for the 2 vials on 3. You have 2 mana available anyway.
Yeah.
So 3 is where you want your vials to be.
Auriok Champion snagged off of that Militia Bugler. We'll see if Mary's wanting to play it immediately. He can go for another Bugly Boy, or he can take to the skies with his Mantis Rider. Looks like we're going to kick things off, however, with an Auriok Champion. Lose 1, gain 1.
Now Mary is the one pulling ahead in life totals, at least when it comes to triggers. Still without a real answer to that growing Lieutenant.
Militia Bugler is saved for another day now, as the Mantis Rider comes across for 3 in the air, gaining Mary 2 life in the process. And there's a second land. Perfect. Another Horizon Canopy. Not the land he's looking for, I'm sure. He'll have a Cavern of Souls or something like that. Maybe a painless source of then again, with these Aether Vials, maybe he's not too worried. He can't cast a card cell Freebirder if he draws it, though.
Yep. That was the biggest cost of taking up the Aether Vial, but with 2 Buglers and a Mantis Rider in hand, it's not even a choice. What you could do in these kind of spots is you Bugler in your upkeep with the other Aether Vial trigger still on the stack, so that you have a tiny bit more information. But that's in this kind of spot, I don't even think you have to do that.
I think we're seeing exactly that. I think we're seeing exactly that, Simon. Just like you said.
I was suggesting it for last turn, but it's because here you're not planning to put your Aether Vial to 4 anyway.
Ooh, and look at this. A Lieutenant off the top thanks to the Bugler. Now he's going to draw for the turn as well. We saw that in the upkeep there. And Mary can put a +1/+1 counter on all of his creatures, gain some life, and start to get busy in the red zone.
These Buglers are going to be attacking.
Yeah.
The champions not because of Refractor Mage holding them off. But suddenly Mary is crushing this race.
+1/+1 counter on everything makes the Buglers there 3/4s. Mantis Rider a 4/4. And all of a sudden he's assembled quite the force out of nowhere, really. I mean, obviously he's put 7 extra power on the battlefield with this Lieutenant trigger, but all the same, it's huge. Look at this.
Yep. And you can see that the 2 Buglers are 2 card advantage cards. He even has the Horizon Canopies to redraw soon. And it's really punishing for Santos that he is the one drawing too many mana sources.
Yeah, he's flooding out ferociously here.
And until now, he had done a good job of racing, but in a mirror match, it's much more important. Oh
no! And Mary found another 3-drop off the top to the au natural draw step there, and that can clear out the Noble Hierarch.
Yep. Actually, an interesting interaction. It also damages your own Noble Hierarch.
Yes.
Which just got a counter.
Yeah, so lucky that Mary sequenced that one correctly.
How fortunate.
So Mary now can line up some attacks. That Bugler can't attack, of course, as it is still summoning sick, nor can the Lieutenant. But in they come. Big attack now for 7 damage. What can Santos do? It looks like he's just going to take this one on the chin. No good blocks available to him here.
He could draw some Buglers of his own. I think that's the That's how it starts.
Start to double spell a little bit here.
Yeah, a bugler into lieutenant, bugler into. Oh, Phantasmal Image, not so good when is it Staticasters on the battlefield.
Finds an Auriok champion instead. It's going to help to buffer his life total. How much life do you think has been gained by these two Auriok champions? What are we up to?
17.
Oh. Okay, that didn't take you long. You're catching whatever Frank Carstner's infected with. Let's see what Mary can find off the top here. He does get a rebuy thanks to that Horizon Canopy. Either one of them, of course. Let's see what's up off the top of the library. Huh. Didn't get a look at that. Playing the cards very close to his chest here in a figurative way, if not a literal one. Can't have been that good because the Horizon Canopy... Oh, no, sorry. I thought he was going to sack it. He's found a Thalia.
Well, that's not too exciting. Both players gain 2 life, and it's not very relevant on regarding combat.
So both players at or above their starting life totals. This game is, in turn, 17. Been a long and windy road.
Yeah, no wonder this is the final match.
Yeah, the Jesco Control KCI one that finished ages ago. You know, don't worry about that. It's the human's mirror that really eats up the clock.
Yeah, but also you can see from the sideboarding, and because those creatures are so similar, a single 4/4 on the battlefield is actually a huge detriment to attacking. Mary can only do it because he's threatening the Staticaster activation, but has to rely on Santos being so flooded that he's not going to flash in another human. Which I like. I like pushing the advantage here.
So you're saying that the Staticaster can finish off the Thalia's lieutenant there if it chooses to block one of the buglers there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because on paper it's dominating the buglers, and the Staticaster is the missing point of damage here.
That allows the 3/4s to attack into that 4/4. Back to Santos now as that attack comes through unhindered, and it's a champion of the parish off the top here for Santos. You're shaking your head, Simon. You're not impressed.
By a 1/1? No. 1/1's not very good.
Although now the left-hander is a 5/5 and will be able to hold off those buglers even in the face of a Staticaster. But Santos down to 11.
Mary will just swing with everything at some point.
Oh, and of course he does have the Staticaster activation there to remove the 1/1 champion.
That's what I was alluding to when I mentioned it's 1/1 status.
So just a little, not even travel preparations, just travel preparation. He put a single apple into a bag and was like, that's enough, I'm ready for my trip. And then got shot down as the moment he walked outside his house by an Izzet Staticaster that was zipping by.
Yeah, the Hobbit could have been much shorter.
Yep. I'm off on an adventure. Oh, no, I'm not. I have 1 toughness. And there is an Izzet Staticaster. Mary now is going to sacrifice the Horizon Canopy. Let's see what is lurking on the top of his library. Any number of cards are going to continue to push him further into the stratosphere here. Another Mantis Rider or something similar. A huge threat like that would do some great work. But it's going to be a bugler. Yes, here we go. Pump up the Thalia's lieutenant once again. And 4 cards off the top. Gets the pick of the litter.
Bugler could just find another lieutenant or a Phantasmal Image here.
Reflector Mage.
Also very good.
Also excellent here, as that means the lieutenant can be removed from the equation for this combat step at least. Or are you going after something else here, Simon?
No. 5/5 off the battlefield, and Santos is very close to scooping up his cards.
Mary up to 24, 26 even, and Santos up to 17 with this latest round of Auriok champion triggers.
You'll know the game is over when Mary is looking to suicide his Auriok champions into a Reflector Mage.
Looks like that hour may have come. No, he's just checked his clock. Nope, still 1/4 to. Still some time. All right. Do you know what perplexes me, Simon, about Militia Bugler?
No.
This fellow, he's blowing into that horn using his left hand. But his sword is also slung on the left-hand side, which indicates that he's a right-handed swordsman.
True.
So does he bugle with his left and sword and fence with his right?
Yes.
Is that so he can bugle and fence it?
Because if he has to bugle in combat, he still has his weapon hand.
He still has his weapon drawn. And the dagger on the right, well, that's obviously, so he's obviously taken the feat two-handed fighting.
Dual wielding.
Dual wielding, exactly. He's obviously specialised in that. Looks like a heavy armour proficiency as well with that plate mail there. So, Santos lines up the blocks here. But it doesn't look like there's too much gas left in his tank here. He can't recast this Thalia's Lieutenant. He's just drawn a phantasmal image, which is more of a phantasmal image at the moment than a fantastic image. It's not doing a huge amount for him on this board, Simon.
No, it can copy something here. Let's say a Militia Bugler. It will die to a Staticaster, just like most things. You can also copy an Auriok champion, but you're not surviving the next attack. It's a very imbalanced board state, to be fair.
Yes, to say the least. Meri has drawn 2 lands for the entire game. Bernardo Santos has drawn a lot more.
Yeah, 6 lands. None of them Horizon Canopy.
And there's just nothing that he can seem to do here. I think Santos just has not had the cards fall his way this time around. You can see he's fighting to the bitter end, though.
Gulping already.
I think you can read the writing on the wall, Simon.
Bit more camera time.
Yeah, and look at that. Cool, calm, collected. Staying hydrated. Got to stay hydrated. Here's the phantasmal image.
Preparing for the semi.
Oh, yeah. Getting in his brains. He's like, yeah, buddy, I don't care. You play it. I don't mind. I'm taking you for lethal next turn, buddy. You do whatever you want. You have some fun. You know what? This is your 15 minutes of fame, and it is 14 minutes and 55 seconds. Time is up for you, my friend. Still, full credit to Bernardo Santos. Top 8 of a GP. Pro Tour appearance in the pipeline. Fantastic stuff from him.
Absolutely. And as we see here, losing the mirror match when you are very clearly the one with the lesser draws.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean no one's faulting Santos here. No, I don't think he's played badly or you know messed anything up. It's just the cards just haven't gone in his favour, and Toe Meri just completely outclassed him with a much better draw. So
Meri declining to shuffle the 3 cards that go under the library.
Thalia's Lieutenant was bounced last turn? Yeah,
yes.
Can't cast that. Sorry, my friend. So Santos is able to cast the 3-drop that he just snagged from his Bugler.
Not the best use of camera time, I have to say.
No, I've seen more compelling matches of Magic, it's said. But look, you know what? Never say die. Bernardo Santos, anything could happen. Meteor could hit the table, Simon, which wouldn't result in him winning. I mean, it probably would be a pretty bad result for everyone in the surrounding blast radius, but all the same, at least he wouldn't have lost. We've talked a lot about moral victories this weekend, Simon, and maybe Santos is hunting around in the cobwebby corners for one that he can take home.
Oh, the 0 land victory.
The 0 land victory. Give it to me. Toe Meri. I love it. I don't need lands. Who needs lands? Boring. All they do, make mana. Snore. Ether Vials, Noble Hierarchs, that's enough for me, says Toe Meri. I've got half a squillion creatures. I'm going to unload 500,000 damage. And you're in big trouble, my friend. See me after class. Toe Meri lining up attacks which should lock up the game and his semi-final appearance here. Counting it up, doing the old Seth Manfield PT Ixalan count up here. Victory almost certainly his.
I haven't done the math, Rally, but this is a lethal attack.
Yes, I would say so. How much damage? A kabillion. He's taking his time about it, though. Oh, my goodness me. Mate, you've got a semi to play. Let's get on with it. Here he comes, sending him in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've lost count. Big attacks. Bernardo Santos has nothing to do but shake the hand of Toe Meri, who is victorious in his quarterfinal. And congratulations to him emerging from the dust there after a pretty good draw, ultimately. But I'm a big fan of the no-land win, Simon. What a big moment for him there. And what a big moment indeed for all of our quarterfinalists throughout our top 8. Congratulations to all of them for having made it that far. But in particular, the 4 that made it to the semis. We're going to step out of the booth right now, and you're going to be joined by Tim and Frank. And they're going to be the steady hand on the tiller to guide you towards the final. The semi-finals, of course, coming your way here from GP Prague. And Simon and I will be back to take you through the finals. We'll see you back here after this. We've got to go to a quick break, ladies and gentlemen. But on the other side of it. More magic coming your way. To recap what we're looking at here, Simon, we can have a look at exactly how things are panning out in the semis here. We do have Band Spirits in the hands of Andre Strasky. He's playing off against Lori Pispa from Finland on hardened scales.
I wanted to comment on that. Lori Pispa crushed his quarterfinals against Band Spirits. So now the question is, can Andre beat hardened scales with the same matchup?
Yes, because Harim was also playing Band Spirits, as you pointed out.
Andre is going to be on the play. We know Andre is a phenomenal player, but based on this sample size of 1, it's not a great matchup.
Is it a statistic? Is that a statistically significant result there?
It's the one result we have.
Okay, so 100% win rate there in the top 8 of GP Prague for Lori Pispa. Well, we'll see what Andre Strasky has to say about that. In our back half, of course, Javier Dominguez going down to Claude Schmidt. Schmidt playing